You are exhausted. Not the kind of exhaustion that sleep fixes. It is a deeper kind, a bone-level fatigue that comes from carrying something invisible for too long. The weight of always being the one who keeps the peace, the one who adjusts, the one who smiles through gritted teeth and says, "It's fine." Always the one who keeps the temperature in the room comfortable for everyone except yourself. You were told a story growing up, that good people finish well, that honesty is repaid with honesty, that if you are patient enough, decent enough, selfless enough, the world will eventually meet you where you are, that kindness is a currency that pays out in the end. But here you are, still waiting, and somewhere in that wait, a question has started forming that you may not have let yourself ask out loud yet. What if the story was never true? What if the idea that goodness gets rewarded was not wisdom, but a mechanism, a way to keep certain people quiet, compliant, and easy to manage? Think about how many times you have swallowed something that deserved to come out. How many times you let a comment slide, absorbed a slight, smiled through something that made your chest tight, and told yourself it was the mature thing to do. How many times you handed over your time, your energy, your peace, and received silence in return. The world does not reward the good, it rewards the strategic. And if you have been frustrated wondering why effort alone never seems to be enough, Machiavelli has already answered that question. He answered it 5 centuries ago. He was not the villain history sometimes makes him out to be. He was simply the first writer honest enough to describe power as it actually operates, not as people wish it would. What he understood, and what most people spend their entire lives refusing to accept, is that moral intention and real-world effectiveness are not the same thing. That being seen as a good person is not equivalent to being respected, valued, or protected. In this video, we are going to have the unfiltered version of that conversation. We are going to look honestly at why the obsession with being good may be the very thing that has been holding you back. And to be clear, this is not an argument for becoming cold or calculating in a destructive way. It is an argument for waking up, for trading a comfortable illusion for something that actually serves you. Because as long as you are devoted to pleasing everyone around you, you are not free. You are a hostage of your own conditioning. And if you are genuinely tired of being used, overlooked, and quietly discarded, then it is time to learn what they never taught you. Let us begin. Look at the people around you who command genuine respect. Not the ones who are merely liked, but the ones who are listened to, taken seriously, given room. Are they the most accommodating, the most eager to help, the ones who never say no? Or are they the ones who know exactly what they will and will not accept, who speak clearly, hold their position, and do not perform warmth they do not feel? The world does not operate on goodness. It operates on utility, perception, and consequence. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote The Prince, not as a guide to cruelty, but as a frank description of how influence actually works. And one of his most difficult lessons is this: being good is not enough. In many circumstances, an excess of visible goodness is the fastest path to being dismissed. You can spend years being the loyal one, the dependable one, the one who gives without conditions. But the day you stop being useful, you will be set aside, not with cruelty necessarily, simply without hesitation, because the world does not tally your worth in terms of your character. It responds to your impact, your positioning, and what happens when someone crosses you. Notice the pattern in people around you. The ones who are constantly justifying themselves, chasing approval, working to prove they deserve what they want. Compare them to the people who simply state what they need, decline what does not serve them, and carry themselves as though their presence speaks for itself. The second group gets more, not because they are better people, because they are not signaling weakness. Unconditional agreeableness reads as an absence of consequence. And when there is no consequence, there is no reason to be careful with you. You become a resource to draw from, not a person to reckon with. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler, if forced to choose, should prefer being feared over being loved. What he meant was not that you should make people afraid of you in a crude sense. He meant that genuine respect is anchored in the perception that you are someone who will act. Someone who cannot be stepped on and forgotten. Someone who is not infinitely replaceable in other people's lives. If you keep living to be pleasant, you will keep being treated as convenient. Not because you are not worthy, but because you are not making it clear that you are. Before we go further, if what you are hearing is starting to connect with something you have felt for a long time, subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps this content reach people who need it. Now let us go deeper, because the surface explanation is not the whole story. You were not born needing approval. That was installed. Slowly, through years of feedback that taught you what version of yourself was safe to show and what version needed to stay hidden. From the time you were young, you learned that acceptance had conditions. Show too much of your real self, and people pull back. Agree, accommodate, stay small, and they stay close. You were praised for being easy. You were corrected when you pushed back. And so your mind did what minds do under those conditions. It adapted. The problem is that the adaptation never stopped. What began as a survival strategy became a default mode. And today it runs automatically, below the level of conscious choice. You cannot say no without guilt climbing through your chest. You feel accountable for other people's emotional states, even when those states have nothing to do with you. You forgive faster than you probably should. You stay in conversations, situations, and relationships past the point where they stopped serving you because leaving feels like a failure of character. And you frame all of this as empathy, as maturity, as being the bigger person. But what it actually is, at its root, is fear. Fear of being rejected if you show edges. Fear of being seen as selfish if you have needs. Fear of the version of yourself that has standards and will walk away from things that fall below them. Fear of the person you might be if you stopped performing goodness and just were yourself. Your pleasantness is not your character, not most of it. It is a learned strategy to minimize the risk of rejection. A mask that has been on your face so long you have started to mistake it for your actual expression. And the cost is not small. Every time you silence something real to keep peace, you move further from yourself. Every time you accept less than you deserve, because asking feels dangerous, you confirm to your own nervous system that you are not worth advocating for. Eventually, the mask does not come off cleanly anymore. It becomes the face. And one day you realize you have no clear sense of who you are when no one is watching. Machiavelli made it plain. Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few perceive what you actually are. You have spent years managing your appearance, keeping it safe, keeping it agreeable. Meanwhile, your real self has been waiting quietly backstage for an invitation that keeps getting delayed. So what did Machiavelli actually prescribe for someone in this position? He said the prince must master the qualities of both the fox and the lion. The fox detects traps before they close. The lion projects enough presence that others think carefully before acting against him. Not one or the other, both. The intelligence to read a room, to see when someone is working an angle, to understand that not everyone approaching you with warmth has your interests in mind. And the grounded presence that communicates you are not someone to be casually used and discarded. The virtue Machiavelli valued was not the kind found in moral philosophy. It was something closer to effectiveness. Courage, self-command, the capacity to act decisively when the situation demands it, not from aggression, but from clarity about what you will and will not permit. He wrote, "A man who wishes to conduct himself with total virtue among people who are not virtuous will eventually be destroyed by them." You have lived inside that sentence. You have been the person extending good faith in situations where it was not being reciprocated, playing by a set of rules that nobody else felt bound by, and absorbing the consequences while trying to understand what you did wrong. You did not do anything wrong. You simply did not understand that the rules you were playing by were not the ones in effect. This is not an argument for abandoning your values. It is an argument for holding them deliberately instead of compulsively, for asking yourself honestly whether your goodness is something you choose or something you perform because you are frightened of what happens if you stop. Here is the confusion that quietly ruins people. The belief that being a decent person requires absorbing everything quietly, that having standards, drawing lines, or walking away from mistreatment makes you morally deficient, that virtue and submission are the same thing. They are not. Real decency is not passive. It has awareness. It makes choices. It understands that you cannot genuinely give to someone if you have nothing left, because you gave it all away to people who were not paying attention to the cost. Naivety is different. Naivety expects the world to operate by the same principles you operate by. It projects your own sense of fairness onto people who do not share it. It waits for reciprocity that is not coming, and then wonders what went wrong. True kindness knows how to say no. It knows how to leave. It understands that giving your best to people who have nothing to offer in return is not generosity. It is a failure to protect something valuable, which is you. Machiavelli did not despise virtue. He despised the naivety of people who wield it without strategy, who walk into rooms full of wolves and expect their goodness to serve as protection. Kindness without strength is not a moral position. It is just exposure. The question worth sitting with right now is your kindness a choice you are making or a reflex you cannot stop? Is it protecting you or leaving you open? Is it something you are offering or something that is being taken? Because if your version of being good requires you to accept disrespect, settle for scraps, and then blame yourself for feeling resentful about it, then you are not being good, you are being managed. And there is a significant difference between the two. Now, a common mistake people make once they recognize this dynamic is to overcorrect, after years of being the accommodating one. The realization that you have been taken advantage of can produce a sharp impulse to become the opposite: hard, closed, detached, calculating in a way that feels like revenge on your old self. This is not growth, it is reaction. And a reaction is still being controlled by the thing you are reacting against. You have just replaced one extreme with another. Real strength does not feel like armor. It feels like clarity. It is the ability to be warm without being obligated. To be generous by choice rather than by compulsion. To help people because you want to, not because you are afraid of what they will think if you do not. The shift you are actually after is not from nice to cold. It is from unconscious to deliberate, from performing for others to living for yourself. Here is how that begins. First, accept that your voice belongs in every room you enter. You have been taught that asserting yourself is a form of aggression, that having opinions and stating them is somehow rude, that staying quiet is the civil thing to do. None of this is true. Silence under pressure is not civility. It is self-erasure. Speaking up, holding a position, saying clearly what you will not accept, that is self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation everything else is built on. Second, practice saying no. Not an apologetic no, buried under a paragraph of explanation. Not a maybe that you hope they will read as a no. A clear, calm, final no, said without aggression and without guilt. That kind of no communicates something important about who you are. It says you have limits. And people with limits are treated differently from people without them. Third, notice who reacts badly when you begin to change. Pay close attention here. If you start drawing boundaries and people around you call you difficult, selfish, or cold, that is information. What they are actually responding to is the loss of access to something they were using. Your compliance was serving them. When you withdraw it, they are uncomfortable. That discomfort is not evidence that you are doing something wrong. It is evidence that you are doing something right. Fourth, release the need for everyone to understand your transformation. Some people will not. They knew the previous version of you, and they preferred it because it was easier for them. You do not owe those people an explanation. Your loyalty is to your own clarity, your own peace, your own ongoing development, not to someone else's memory of who you used to be. Fifth, trade the hunger to be accepted for a commitment to being honest. When you act in alignment with what you actually think and feel, you will not please everyone, but you will begin to attract the kind of respect that means something. And more than that, you will finally begin to experience something that has probably been absent for a long time: respect for yourself. That is the only kind no one can take from you. Now we have arrived at the part of this conversation that cannot be softened. How long are you going to keep this performance running? How long will you trade your actual life, your energy, your dignity, your voice, for an image that was never really yours to begin with? A version of yourself built not from your own choices, but from what other people decided was acceptable. No one is coming to honor the sacrifices. No one is compiling a record of all the times you stayed quiet, put others first, or accepted less than you deserved, and preparing to settle the account in your favor. As long as you are available to be used, there will be someone in your life willing to use you, not because they are evil, because that is what happens when there are no limits. People fill the space you leave open. You have two directions you can move from here. You can continue being the person everyone describes as so patient, so selfless, so understanding. And you can continue accumulating the quiet resentment that comes from giving far more than you ever receive. The frustration, the invisibility, the sense that something is deeply wrong but you cannot quite say it out loud because saying it would mean admitting you have been part of the problem. Or you can decide, right now, that your kindness is no longer something anyone can count on as a default, that it belongs to the people who have demonstrated they deserve it, that you will move through the world with intention rather than obligation. That generosity is something you choose, and you choose it toward people who are worthy of it. The world gives weight to people who carry their own weight first. That is not cynicism. It is simply how things work. So I want you to answer something honestly, in the comments or just to yourself. When was the last time you said no and did not spend the next hour justifying it in your head? When was the last time you made a decision that was entirely about what you needed, without filtering it through what someone else might think? That moment matters. Share it in the comments. Because there is someone watching this right now who is still inside the prison you may be just now finding your way out of. And your honesty might be the thing that opens a door for them. If this video shifted something in how you see yourself, the next one will take it further. Do not skip it. The real work is only beginning.